I wanted to do something that was a little bit more fun for a recommendations list because it's Pride Month, and the first thing that came to mind to do was colours. Have you ever watched a movie and just had one particular colour scream out the entire time? To give a couple of examples that I have not included on this list would be things like Flux Gourmet from 2022, which is a surreal horror comedy which screams turquoise the entire time, or even Swallow from 2019, which is a psychological horror drama which screams turquoise and red. Well, that's this list. One movie to represent each of the 8 basic colours of the rainbow. Now, I did think about doing this with LGBTQ plus horror movies, and I managed to get 7 out of 8. So I now have a personal vendetta against orange, so we'll try again next year and see if I can actually do this challenge again. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, so if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, maybe even stick around and join the Horde here on my channel. If you have any recommendations for movies, please feel free to drop them in my comment section down below, because I will go and check them out as I do with every single recommendation that I get given. And without further ado, let's jump into this recommendations list. Red. Braindead / Dead Alive from 1992 is a splatter, gross-out zombie horror. Lionel Cosgrove has never even kissed a girl and is so excited when the lovely Paquita, the Spanish girl who works at the corner shop, arranges a date with him to the zoo. Unfortunately, Lionel's overpossessive mother, while spying on them from the bushes, is bitten by a Sumerian monkey. When the bite turns his beloved mother into a zombie, Lionel tries to keep her locked safely in the basement, but her repeated escapes turn most of the neighbours into the Walking Dead, all while Lionel's boorish uncle Les has his sights set on inheriting Lionel's house. I only watched Braindead for the first time this year, and there is a full review of it here on my channel, but it is safe to say that since watching that movie, I have fallen a little bit in love with a tiny menace who wears a red and white striped romper named Selwyn. Who knew that a zombie baby would be the thing that completely stole my heart in that movie? But this movie, the second half of it, is so blood drenched. It is amazing, and there is an incredible scene with a lawnmower and a horde of zombies that you just have to witness. There is some of the most amazing visual effects in this movie, all done practically, and I can't give enough credit to everybody that worked on Braindead. It's so good. When Peter Jackson is allowed to make his weird, gross out horror comedies, he is well and truly at his best, and there is a reason that most people think that Braindead is the greatest movie that Peter Jackson has ever made.
Scooby-Doo, take note.
You can expect pus, guts, buckets and buckets of blood, the most adorable zombie baby that you just need to see to believe, and a massive zombie puppet. Orange. Trick or Treat from 2007 is a horror anthology. It is said that Halloween is the night when the dead rise to walk among us and other unspeakable things roam free. The rituals of All Hallows Eve are devised to protect us from their evil mischief, and one small town is about to be taught a terrifying lesson that some traditions are best not forgotten. 5 interwoven stories that all occur on the same block on the same night. A couple finds out what happens when you blow out a jack-o'-lantern before midnight. A high school principal has a secret life as a serial killer. A college virgin might have just met the right guy for her. A group of mean teens play a prank that they take too far, and a hermit is visited by a special trick-or-treater. If you still haven't watched Trick or Treat, put this movie on your watch list and bank it for October. Now, Trick or Treat does for Halloween theming in adult movies what Hocus Pocus did for Halloween theming in kids movies. Like, it is everywhere. It is the most magical, whimsical adult movie that you will ever see in the horror genre, and it is then paired with this eerie, spooky, yet whimsical soundtrack that feels very much like Casper or the Addams Family from the 90s, and it's amazing. Now, Trick or Treat, you follow multiple characters throughout the night as the anthology stories weave in and out of each other, so you do get time where you actually see these characters grow and develop, and there is a reason why Sam is such an icon and this movie has such a cult following. So if you haven't seen this yet, please give this a chance during the Halloween season. You will not regret this one.
Happy Halloween!
you can expect whimsical Halloween decor, a lollipop murder weapon, more jack-o'-lanterns than you will see anywhere in your life, 5 interwoven stories, and to find out why you should always check your Halloween candy. Yellow. Little Monsters from 2019 is a zombie horror comedy. Dave, a washed-up, foul-mouthed musician recovering from a bad breakup, is attracted to his nephew's teacher, Miss Caroline. To impress her, Dave decides to become a chaperone to the class of 5-year-olds on their school trip to a farm. But when the idiotic US Army base next door accidentally lets out a zombie apocalypse, it is up to Miss Caroline, Dave, and the alcohol, sex-addicted kids TV show host who hates kids, Teddy McGiggles, to make sure everybody survives until backup arrives. Big statement here, especially coming from somebody who goes by Hordes online. Little Monsters from 2019 is my favourite zombie movie of all time at the moment, and it is all down to Lupita Nyong'o as Miss Caroline, who is the most adorable, yellow sundress wearing, ukulele playing, world's best teacher that you didn't know that you needed in your life. This movie is such a hidden gem, and it balances its comedy with these amazing heartfelt moments, and at times it is gory as hell. And then you put Josh Gad in this movie as Teddy McGiggles, who is the kids show host that does not like kids, and it's amazing. Like, if you didn't know, this movie is Australian, and there is a zombie in a koala mascot suit at one point. Like, how much more Australian do you need this movie to say that it is to you? There's even some great moments, like when nobody is surprised that the Americans have started the outbreak again, meaning that this has happened somewhere else in the world before, and you are watching all of this happen with the most unlikely hero being a kindergarten teacher, and she's the one person that you want on your team now in a zombie apocalypse. Like, watch this movie and you will see exactly what I mean, and then also tell me that you wouldn't pick Felix the 5-year-old to be on your, like, zombie apocalypse team as well, because what that child does not know about tractors. I'm on a tractor! You can expect the world's best teacher in a movie. She makes Miss Honey in Matilda look like Miss Trunchbull, a zombie apocalypse at a farm, a TV show host that hates kids, and Shake It Off by Taylor Swift played on a ukulele. Green. Re-Animator from 1985 is a sci-fi horror. Brilliant, if somewhat deranged, medical student Herbert West arrives at the Miskatonic Medical School in New England after surviving a horrific incident at the Institute of Medicine in Switzerland, and immediately sneers at his professor's outdated views on death. Herbert has his own outlandish theories and has concocted a serum that will bring the dead back to life. Roping in fellow medical student Dan Kane, their shocking experiments work all too well with horrific and often messy results, which draws the attention of the same professor Herbert has previously clashed with, who now wants Herbert's serum for his own personal gain. This year, I fell a little bit in love with Herbert West from Re-Animator, and not in a romantic way, more of a dry, sarcastic, isn't afraid to call people out when you know you're correct kind of way. And you put this against our villain of this movie, Dr. Carl Hill, who is vile, and you instantly have two people in Herbert and Dan who are incredibly likable. Now, I love a scientific genius, which is the definition of Herbert West, but what I love more is a scientific genius who makes spur-of-the-moment decisions that you know are going to have the most disastrous consequences. And that is Dan and Herbert West in this movie. Like, does Herbert need to bring every dead thing that he comes into contact with back to life to test out his serum? No. Is he going to do it anyway? Yes. Does he have access to the medical university's morgue thanks to Dan? Yes. So what could possibly go wrong? Doctor. You can expect a cat in a fridge, a zombie carrying around a decapitated, reanimated head, and two best friends performing experiments in the basement of their house. Light blue. Rent-a-Pal from 2020 is a psychological horror thriller. Set in 1990, a lonely bachelor named David searches for an escape from the day-to-day drudgery of caring for his aged mother who has dementia. While seeking a partner through a video dating service, he discovers a strange VHS tape called Rent-A-Pal. Hosted by the charming and charismatic Andy, the tape offers him much needed company, compassion, and friendship, but Andy's friendship comes at a cost, and Dave desperately struggles to afford the price of admission. I don't often go into personal details about myself here on my channel, but Rent-A-Pal is a movie that hit incredibly close to home for me because I am actually a carer for my mum, and there are days, like it shows in this movie, where it is the most isolating of experiences. Like, we already know that making friends is hard, but making friends when you are an adult is even harder, and these are just two of the things that Rent-A-Pal actually touches on. Now, Will Wheaton in this movie, I have to give a shout out to him because his performance as Andy on the VHS tapes is the most menacing of things to watch, and what makes it even worse is knowing that his performance is actually inspired by an actual VHS tape from 1986. So a lot of the scenes that he performs are actually direct references to a VHS tape that legit isolated lonely people in desperate need of friendship and companionship or any kind of interaction were actually watching.
That's terrifying.
You can expect a man that is in desperate need of company and companionship, one incredibly toxic friendship, and a spiral into dependency. Dark Blue. Meander from 2020 is a sci-fi horror thriller. After getting into a car ride with an unknown man, Lisa wakes up in a maze of metal tubes, each one containing a deadly trap. On her arm is strapped a bracelet with a countdown timer where she quickly understands that every 8 minutes, fire will burn an occupied section. She has no choice but to crawl into the safe sections to survive. And to know why she is there and how to get out, Lisa will have to confront the wounds of her past trauma. Any movie with the song Through the Valley and I will instantly pay attention. Now, Meander is a sci-fi movie first, horror movie second, which is not a bad thing. And this is a movie where the protagonist actually is gonna use her brain to try and get herself out of a situation. Now, what is creepier than having to crawl through a series of metal tunnels? Well, how about crawling through a set of trapped and rigged tunnels while somebody else is actively hunting you down because you are the thing standing between them and life and death? I also recently watched Haze from 2005, which is a Japanese surreal horror movie, and it is certainly one of the inspirations for Meander. So if you like this movie, or if you like Haze, then maybe check out the other one because they do have a lot of similarities, but one is like alien sci-fi horror and the other one is surreal death game kind of horror. But you'll get what I mean when you see them both.
Different, but same.
You can expect claustrophobic tunnels, fire, acid, razor wire, a man that refuses to die, and alien life forms. Purple. Frankenhooker from 1990 is a sci-fi horror comedy. When Jeffrey Franken, an eccentric doctor, accidentally kills his girlfriend Elizabeth with a lawnmower, he decides to rebuild her a new body, as unfortunately he is only able to save her head. After studying how to bring her back, he drives to New York to acquire the rest of the body parts, but his new experiment goes horribly wrong when he blows up several prostitutes with exploding meth he has developed. But when Elizabeth escapes from his lab, Jeffrey suddenly has double the problems when Pimp Zorro comes looking for his missing girls. If you have never seen Frankenhooker, just going off my description, you would think that this is one of the wildest, weirdest movies that you've ever seen. And you would be correct. And if it's not obvious from the fact that I included Herbert West on this list, Jeffrey Franken is an equally troubled scientific genius, and they would make the perfect duo together, reanimating the dead and securing body parts through crime. Like, they've already built themselves women. Like, they have that in common as well. There's a reason that this movie is a cult classic, and when Elizabeth gets brought back to life, she is stupidly funny and has some of the most quotable lines that I often quote all the time, and she is rocking a pair of platform creepers, so she's freaking purple as well. She is like the girly goth icon that you didn't know you needed in your life. And a little random story, I once told my girlfriend if she was ever decapitated by a lawnmower, this is how I was going to build her a new body. And she genuinely just said, fine, I accept these terms, and she's never even seen the movie, so make of that what you will. You can expect one hilarious murder weapon, a leg flying across the room like a rocket, one of the most adorable versions of Frankenstein's monster that you will ever see, and a surprise body horror moment. Pink. Slay from 2024 is a vampire horror comedy. After a booking mistake, 4 drag queens find themselves performing for a mostly unwelcoming crowd, but when the man delivering the bar's supplies arrives late, it is obvious that something is wrong when he bites one of the patrons, turning them into a vampire. Now in the face of danger, it is up to the locals and the 4 drag queens to form an alliance to defend the bar and fight to stay alive against a full vampire attack, while learning that they may just have more in common than they first realised. Please, go and give this movie some more love and attention. I did a full spoiler-free review of this one here on my channel, and I'm gonna go out there and say that so far, Slay is my favourite 2024 release that I have seen this year. And it is on Tubi, so it's free. So please go and give this one some love. If the gays made From Dusk Till Dawn and paired it with Tu Wong Fu, you get Slay. And this movie is like campy, glitter, stereotypes to do with vampires and queer people and small towns and makeshift murder weapons and a drag queen crawling through a ventilation shaft wearing vinyl and squeaking the entire time. Like, this movie does not get the attention that it deserves. They even make references to other vampire media in this. We're talking Buffy the Vampire Slayer, From Dusk Till Dawn. Twilight gets both barrels where they rip into this movie, and if you are a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, then you will recognise the 4 drag queens in this because they're played by Trinity the Tuck, Heidi N Closet, Crystal Method, and Cara Mel. 3 of these people are actual season winners. Now, we're not just talking anybody in this, we're talking some legit, like, gay star power in this. It is campy, it's funny, it's got some great horror moments, but it's also got some really heartfelt moments mixed in there as well. Please go and watch this movie. Please. You can expect Crystal Method crawling through a ventilation shaft in full vinyl, WAP performed in a biker bar, neon signs absolutely everywhere, fight sequences in full drag, and to find a character called Sheila, the most relatable person in a horror movie, as her priority in all of this is when she next gets food. So there you have it, 8 horror movie recommendations, each based on a colour of the rainbow. If you would like to know where any of these movies are streaming, I will leave links to justwatch.com in my description bar down below so you can find out for yourself. If you would like to know every single movie that I watch or just where else you can find me, I will leave links in my description bar as well to those, but you can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd at Hordes of Horror. To my fellow LGBTQ Horde members here on YouTube, happy Pride. Remember to stay safe if you are celebrating this month and raising awareness, and I will be back on Monday with another solo movie review, and it is time to continue on with another movie that I wanted to prioritise watching this summer. And we're now moving on to Kevin Smith's movie about a man being turned into a walrus. So until next time, bye.